Hi, everyone. This is Pastor John from Bridgepoint Church in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I have a short message for you today concerning the church and who Christ is. I just finished lunch. I had blueberry yogurt, like anybody cares. But it got me thinking about my granddaughter. When she was little, she would only eat one thing, yogurt. She called it yogurt. So we'd go to the refrigerator and say, "What do you want?" Yogurt. It had to be vanilla yogurt. No fruit in it, no variety, nothing new, just vanilla yogurt. Drove me crazy. I thought, man, honey, try some blueberry, try some peach, try something. No, if it had fruit in it, she wouldn't eat it. That's her picture over my shoulder with her dad, Michael. And she just drove me crazy that way. Honey, try something different, try something new. No, yogurt, vanilla yogurt. And it got me thinking about Christ in a book I read long time ago. I picked it up in a bookstore. It was called The Other Jesus, written by Lloyd Ogilvie, who was the pastor of North Hollywood Presbyterian Church. Sorry about that. And I had heard him speak, and I'd read a couple of others of his books, and I thought he was really good. And I picked up this book mostly because of the title and because I knew the author and I trusted him. But he had this book called The Other Jesus, and I thought, well, I've got to read this thing. And his point wasn't that there's another Jesus, of course. He was talking about the Jesus that we often present is not the full picture of Jesus. We often present Christ as this, forgiving, nice, good-natured helper Jesus. And the Jesus of the New Testament was a whole lot more than that. In fact, the Jesus of the New Testament was often fierce and confrontive. And the point is this: when we come to Christ, we come to this Jesus because he forgives us and he loves us. That's a powerful force. Transforms us. Really, the sin lifted and life beginning. But there's another side of this Christ who's calling us out and calling us forward, the other Jesus that we often neglect. See, Christ loves us enough to save us where we are, but he loves us enough to not leave us where we've been. He's calling us forward, and he's calling us to a new height and a new life and a new love. A power that transforms not just our future life in heaven that gets us there, but that transforms our minds and transforms our hearts. Frees our minds to think of things way smarter than we would ever be on our own. A wisdom that we can't possibly grasp in our own human nature. A heart that's transformed that can love in ways that we didn't know we were capable of, and love people that we wouldn't normally love. That's the other Jesus. He's calling us to higher heights and greater depths. He's calling us out of our weakness into his strength. He's calling us from our hopelessness to give hope to others. And that's the call of the church today. I want to add to that this about the other Jesus and about what we choose to believe. And I've made statements about this a few times in the past. Be careful what you believe. I remember when I was in high school, I went to work for UPS in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, of all places. Because I was raised in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and I was raised at First Assembly of God Church in Waukesha. Salute. And the people at Waukesha First were wonderful people. Taught me a lot about how to follow Christ. Taught me a lot about loving God and loving one another. It was a great church. The foundation of all of my ministry started there. And all of my following Christ started there. It was a great place. And yet at the same time, when I went to Wauwatosa and discovered the people at UPS, most of them that worked the shift that I was on were Marquette University students. And they were learning things I had never heard before. They would talk about things that I had never talked about, still don't talk about. because I just don't think that's what we should be talking about. But some interesting people, nonetheless. And I met this one guy, and I don't remember his name, but he was really smart. In fact, a little too smart. He thought a lot of himself. And one day he says to me, John, remember this. I said, okay, I'm listening. Only believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Now that sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? And yet in this world in which we live, where we are bombarded constantly with other ideas and other people's vision of things and other people's truth, we can lose sight of that simple idea that don't believe it all. In fact, don't believe a lot of it. Maybe none of it. Our country is divided along political lines to the point where it's destructive. Well, we've been divided forever. That's part of America, that we have different views and different ideas. But let's try and remember something simple. That we're not citizens of the United States first. In other words, my president is my president. The last president was my president. The president before that was my president. This governor is my governor. The last governor was my governor. The governor before that was the governor. Because they were elected to those positions, they hold those jobs. And they are who they are. And they may be from different political backgrounds, but their calling and their job is to really look out for the people that have elected them to govern. And so there's a point where I need to trust them and I need to pray for them. And that's my call for you today. Rather than criticize, rather than look down on these people, rather than because they're of a different political viewpoint than you, would you please do what Christ called us to do? Pray for those in authority over us. This wasn't a suggestion. This is part of being in the new mind of Christ. That He's called us to something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our country, even bigger than the world. That we are citizens of heaven. See, Christ was a citizen of heaven. You're a citizen of heaven, first and foremost. So be careful what you grab hold of. Be careful what you believe. Be careful what you post. Be careful. Does it represent the Christ that you serve well? Even the other Jesus, the one who is confrontive, the one who does call us to something greater? You know, Jesus said some really radical things. He said to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, "You're whitewashed tombs. You're the murderers of prophets." That's fierce. That's confrontive. He says to his disciples, "Take up your cross and follow me." What was he saying by that? Simply this: lay down your life every single day for me and follow. And my opinions and my political viewpoints don't matter when it comes to that. When it comes to that point, that truth, I have one King, the King of heaven. I have one Christ who shed all of his blood, poured it out so that I could be saved. I have one Redeemer who set me free, body, mind, and spirit. And he's calling us to a higher calling than we are capable of ever following. So take up your cross and follow him. It's a hard saying. It's one that Lloyd Ogilvie deals with in his book, The Other Jesus. Our calling is to be citizens of heaven first and foremost. And that doesn't mean we don't have political opinions, and it doesn't mean we don't take sides. Of course we do. We have the right to vote. We have the right to picket. We have the right to do all of those things. And at times maybe we should. Well, let's not be so quick to put Christ in that boat. To take the Christ that we serve and put him in that same alignment. Aligning Christ with our political viewpoints is dangerous and destructive. Taking Christ as he is for who he is, the King of glory. That's our calling. That's our high calling. We need to be about that business. We need to be about doing what Jesus called us to do, being who Christ called us to be. He's the other Jesus. He's more than just a kind, gentle, genteel Jesus. He's not genteel at all. He's fierce. And he's calling us to be fierce in the darkness around us, in the political turmoil that's around us, to stand up and let people see Christ in us, the hope of glory, to see the joy that even in our struggles we still have the peace that even in war situations we still can hold on to, because he's the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he's calling us up and he's calling us forward. And he has some hard things to say to us so that he can redeem us fully, so that he can put a new mind in us and a new heart in us, so that we can serve him and represent him in a world that so desperately needs him. This is the other Jesus. And in the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about some of those hard sayings and what they really mean, and what they mean to us, how we can apply these truths to our lives and know this Christ, the other Jesus, which really just means the real Jesus. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. God bless. Have a great day.